Hi. All right. So now we get to the part where, a lot of research, a lot of work has been done up until this point. This is now the part where we get to deconstruct a query. And, on the website, you're going to have a query template that you can download to kind of go along with this. And this is going to definitely not going to fit the 5 minute promised time allotment because there's a lot to cover here. And with that being said, I'm just going to kind of go right into it. So first off, there are a couple different parts of a effective query letter. This is the query letter that I used to query my agent. And I think that, the main takeaway is it's not kind of this big mysterious behemoth that you've got to just kind of, not even a behemoth, like a labyrinth that you've got to work through. It's a really predictable way of, incorporating kind of four essential parts. And so I like a good personal opener, kind of a single respectful line. It shows specifically why you chose this agent. We're going to go through all of these parts too. This is just kind of an overview. And then you get into your pitch paragraph, and we're going to talk through what that looks like. But this should really just kind of launch into your story, right? What's the emotional engine? Who's the protagonist? What's the conflict? What are the stakes? Like, just, I think diving right into that first really captures the attention of an agent, and they can make that decision of whether or not this is something that they're into or perhaps something that they want to pass on. Then you can get into some of the metadata. And by metadata, I mean word count, category, audience, your strategic comps, how you're going to put those comps, how you're going to narrate that together. And then, your bio, your send off, those credentials that we talked about earlier, that's where they come in. Maybe you want to add some of your personality, a warm professional closing. This all matters because, agents skim. The clean structure allows them to immediately interact with your story in seconds without having to kind of figure it out and play between the lines. So let's talk about your pitch paragraph. Paragraph, not graft. Sorry, my words are failing me. That's what happens when you turn 42. So this is how to build it from the inside out. And so your paragraph it's the story's engine, right? It's not a full summary. Like, we don't need to know the ins and outs of everything that's going on. There will be time for that later. But this is really just, they want to know, like, who the protagonist, what is their situation, right? What's the emotional wound? What is the human element working here? This is speaking in fiction. What's the inciting incident, right? What's the moment that shakes everything up, that kind of starts the story moving? Like, what's that critical, high catalyst moment in the story? What's the central conflict? Like, what has to happen to create change? Because, we're watching that story arc happen as we're writing it. So what's the conflict that's driving that story, as it moves? And then what are the stakes, right? What happens if, what do they stand to lose if they choose perhaps the wrong path? Like, what is the well, yeah, it's kind of, like human collateral. Like, what's the collateral damage if this story is, if the characters don't make the right decisions in the story? It can be 5 to 7 sentences. It's one storyline. It's one emotional arc. We're not getting into the whole characters, all of the, secondary, the tertiary characters, the setting. We're not really getting into that. This is the pitch paragraph that I used for mine. It says Becky, main character, boards a bachelorette cruise on the Calypso setting, still pretending she's fine, really, after losing her husband. Emotional stakes. While Joseph, right, another protagonist, the ship's resident mentalist um, person, background, hides his own restlessness behind charm and intuition, right? So there's his internal conflict. When a rogue wave sends her tumbling into his arms, right? So this is the inciting incident here. The collision cracks their defenses. pulling them into a connection that feels too intimate, too fast. So we get the stakes here, we get the action here, right? Around them, an ensemble of unforgettable characters, so I can add in and start embedding other elements of the story without losing touch of what we're focusing on, including the anthropomorphic Calypso, the grand lady of the sea. So a kind of broadening like place and the setting in this pitch stirs wounds and secrets, blending grief with humor. All right, so there's the emotional stakes again as Becky and Joseph, and here's the kind of the end piece. They've got to decide whether they're going to risk something real or let the spark between them drift out to sea. A couple of things were accomplished here, right? We've got setting, we've got time, we've got place, we've got character, we've got multiple characters. So you've got a whole ensemble that was dropped there. And I think I look at this and it's very skimmable. We've got a judicious level of going back, a judicious level of bolding text here. And so I think that increases scannability for an agent. Next paragraph, we're talking about metadata and your comps and how to position them. So your metadata should include, and this is the paragraph that comes right after. So you've hooked someone, they're interested. Now they want to know the deets, right? What's the word count? You've got to round up to the nearest 5K, not down. What's the category? Is this upmarket? Is this commercial? Is this literary fiction? What's the genre? Who is the audience? Like, this is all of the research that you've done on your own work coming through. It's factual, neutral, really professional. There's no embellishment. There's no broad general statements like everybody's going to love this. And comps here do a lot of the heavy lifting. So we've talked about comps before. If you didn't watch that, go back. Choosing some recent ones, 3 to 5 years. They need to be successful. They need to be tonally aligned. My words are just whatever. We're going with it. These comps need to match, the emotional core, the voice, the structure, the reading experience. They are not a one-to-one comparison. They are a complement. Okay. So they don't have to be the exact same plot here. And you can blend comps, within your sentences that show the story, that tell more about the novel than they do about the comps. I'm going to show you how I did this. So this is my metadata and my comps example. Love and Loss on the Lido deck, 90,000 word upmarket commercial novel, book club readers, coming in for a breezy and closed setting escape, but staying for emotional depth. So in that sentence, you can pick out lots of metadata. Fans of the enclosed high concept setting of the Jet Setters. So I am comparing my work and saying, hey, my book has an enclosed high concept setting, right? The sharp wit and the modern family dynamics of the Vacationers. So by saying that, I'm indicating that my book has has this voice, this very witty voice. Also talking through, modern family dynamics. Okay, so we're talking about blended families. We're talking about alternative family structures. And the rich interiority. So again, that enclosed setting builds an interiority where you've got, first person. It's told through 10 different narrators, all first person. And that, happens in, other texts. And so that interiority is comprised in this, novel. Readers, again, the celebrants, love that novel, will definitely recognize long-term friendship, loss softened by sun-soaked warmth, the tension between escapism and honesty. All of that happened in that book, and it happens in mine too. LLLD, so it's a very long title. I shortened it, saved some word count there, invites readers to keep doing the hopeful work of becoming our truest selves, sometimes with help from a banana suit wearing cruise director on skates. Oh, Manuelo, I love you. And again, really judicious use of the bolded text here, and my story's theme, the entire theme is right there in bold text. The hopeful work of becoming our truest selves. That's what the whole novel is about, right? And then I also added an extra paragraph for this one. This is highly tailored to my agent. My agent knew these books in and out, publish deals on them. So I wanted to call in, hey, this work that you're very familiar with, I know you're very familiar with, um, aligns with my work. So again, character forward, voice-driven narrative, strong emotional spine, interiority of this book that you published, or worked with the connected the agent to the author to publish, layered storytelling under pressure, like in this text, longing for meaning in this text. And so again, like, yes, this is complementary of other work, but I am pulling it all together in a way that tells the story of my book too. And then the bio and the sign off. This is not your life story. It's brief, relevant, tiny snapshot of, what you have done in your own creative professional life, why you're the right person to write this book. This is where those bona fides come in. So, any writing credentials, have you received an award? Do you have an MFA? Have you published previously? Any relevant research that you did, any lived experience that really fell into place when you were creating this story? Are you involved in your community? What are you doing in that vein? And then, maybe some personal highlight that humanizes you as well and connects you to the person that you're writing to. Short, specific, professional, a few sentences max. Your sign off should be warm. Definitely not like, and I've seen this quite a few times, where authors will go, gosh, I know you that you're so busy and you've got to have lots of things coming across your desk. And, I'm just so appreciative. And they're just really kind of effusive. And that comes from an authentic and sweet and very kind place. But it takes up vital real estate on a pitch that's got to be super condensed. So none of that, we're not apologizing for our work here. We're entering into a professional relationship, and so we need that to convey. And also another great tool of like if you use Google to send your emails, a lot of your credentials too can be in your signature block, which doesn't necessarily count as word count. So a good clean name, role, location, website, your socials, all of that can be comprised there. So you don't have to use lengthy words to share that. So this is an example. My bio. So some of my background here, I spent 5 years, two very low budget cruises. I know a lot about the cruise industry. If you're interested in being scared to death, please give me a ring. I would love to provide those details to you. Writing this novel while earning my MFA. My work appears in print, online, performance. So there are some more of my credentials there. Also, this is what I do for my community. I organize literary programming. I've had grants that have funded these opportunities. And I'm also currently at work on another novel. Side set fact here that I need clarification on, but this is what makes sense to me. I did not want to call this in unless I was at least 25% complete with the novel. This is not like an idea that I have. This isn't something that I just sketched out, or I've got a summary, or just like a really great idea for. This is something that I've put considerable amount of work in, and that's why I wanted to call it in, because the elusive double book deal, the unicorn of a double book deal, is kind of appealing to me. And I wanted to make sure that my, potential agent was aware. And so this is kind of like a signal to that. And I just shared a little bit about that. And then here's my humanizing line. When I'm not writing, I'm hobby farming, renovating my 1940s bungalow, trying to, cooking for my family, again, trying to, and waiting on my librarian husband to get home with my holds. So I think that speaks probably a little bit more to me as a human. And then, of course, my sign off, that's all my information. This is how you can find me. And then, kind of that's it. So, when let's just kind of round out with like some best practices. 450 words max, fantastic. Mine's a little longer, but as you can tell, I'm quite verbose. Brevity signals mastery, and I think that that's potentially what worked in my query. Like it was a lot to pack in, but my brevity was, it gave me allowances there that I'm sharing with you. Again, one storyline. We're not going off into side quests here. We're not talking about subplots and other characters. We're really just focusing on kind of the main thread line of the story. Round your word count up, choose comp strategically, paragraph short, super scannable, white space is actually your friend on this one. Be professional, be warm, don't apologize, no self-deprecating humor. Um, and then, of course, oh gosh, this is like the biggest one. Follow the agent submission guidelines exactly. Format it exactly like they state. Um, get your attachments exactly how they are, your pages, everything, everything, everything. Do not just blanket send this out, because every agent has a little, nuance to how they're wanting to accept their queries from the slush pile. So again, this isn't necessarily a test of your writing stamina, but it's definitely your market awareness, your how ready you are to take this on. So next, we are going to pop into a lesson about tracking like a pro, and then moving through our lesson 7, 8, 9. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you're getting something from it, and I will see you on the next session.